You're listening to This Week in America with Rick Bratton.
Welcome back, everybody, coast to coast, This Week in America. Great to have you with us on the program. Our guest on the show today is still, struggling with that whole career thing. Don Bruns is a musician, songwriter, advertising guru, painter, a real good cook, stand-up comic working the Playboy circuit, Vegas, a number of nightclubs across the country, voiceover artist, friend, and a USA Today best-selling author. 14 novels over the last 15 years. It all started with Jamaica Blue, praised by Sue Grafton. It became the cornerstone for his Caribbean series. Next up, the Stuff series, two 24-year-old private detectives in Miami, one review comparing the novels to Huck Finn, and Don's newest series, the Quentin Archer Mysteries. A New Orleans homicide detective and a voodoo practitioner hook up to solve crime in the Big Easy. The first in the new series, Casting Bones, available now with excellent reviews. The multi-talented Don Bruns joining us on This Week in America. Don, good to hear your voice again, and thank you for being with us on the program.
I have nothing left to say.
And we're out of time anyway, so drive carefully, and we'll be back next week.
It was good to talk to you. Thank you very much.
Since we talked the last time, you've been very prolific. All of the books out there, they're all doing exceptionally well. All the series. We'll talk in a second about Casting Bones, but I want to go back to this whole writing thing. I understand this all started like fourth grade when everybody in class was writing a chapter and you thought, hey, this is sort of cool. I'd like to do this.
Yeah, actually it was in the fourth grade that our teacher said, we're all going to write a book. I said, what do you mean? She said, well, I'm going to write the first chapter. I'm going to pass it off to Joey and Bobby and Tommy and Sally. And we all wrote a chapter. And when it was done, it was, it was a Hardy Boys kind of book. I know it. I remember that much about it. And we said, my God, I can do this. I got the thing back. I think we had 2 mimeographed copies, that we could pass around and everybody read when it was done. But 26 weeks later, we had a book. And that stuck with me. It was probably one of the most important things that I learned in school. And when I was in high school, I started writing a novel. And then I continued through college playing with it and pulling it out once in a while. And it took me, Rick, until I was 50 years old before I said, I got to do this. If I'm going to do it now, because I'm not getting any younger. And here we are 15 books later. So
it's amazing. And the books in the series, and we'll talk about the concept of writing a series of books. As a reader, I enjoy that because there's something sort of sad when you read a one-time book. When it's over with, you like some of the characters and you really wonder whatever happened to them. It's sort of over with. You shut the book for the last time and that sort of closes the chapter on that and you move on. You've got a continuation with the series, and this is a new series starting, Quentin Archer Mystery. Don Bruns, our guest in the program. The book is Casting Bones. It's available all across the country. Information at Don's website, donbruns, BRUNS.com. You can link on directly by going to our website, thisweekinamerica.us.
DonBrunsBooks.com.
What did I say? DonBrunsBooks.com. And you can log on directly to our website, and you can get there as well and link on. This idea for this new series, the Quentin Archer Mystery, I understand came from your agent. You're sitting around, and he's got this idea, and all of a sudden it's evolved into what I'm sure will be another successful series for you.
Well, I think the idea was he said let's get some vampires, because vampires are really hot right now. And Charlene Harris was writing True Blood, and she went from nobody to huge author, and a number of people were starting to do that. And he said, let's do some, and I said, I can't do vampires. I just can't do that. And I can't do zombies. I can't do these people. I mean, I respect the writers who can pull that off. I can't. So I got to thinking about what I could do that would be that woo-woo effect that people could actually buy into. And they'd say, well, that might happen. People don't say that about vampires, and they don't say that about zombies. It's pure fantasy. So I came up with the idea of a cop who is displaced from Detroit. He gets kicked off the force and comes down to New Orleans and gets hired on. I'm looking for crooked police departments. It wasn't too hard to find them. And anyway, and this girl, this young, attractive voodoo practitioner approaches him and says, I think I can help you. And there are things in there that we do a lot of the voodoo practices and some of the gris-gris bags, and the Casting Bones is a canvas with a map on it that a voodoo practitioner will have, and she takes 5 animal bones, small pieces, and tosses them, and it's wherever they land, she then reads the bones and can tell your future. So that's where that came from.
The characters are so interesting. Here's a cop from Detroit who ends up in New Orleans. A judge is murdered, and you've got him assigned to the case. And you mentioned the young lady, the practitioner who gets involved, and she sees a force at work, and multiple murders come out of this. Talk about the research that went into this. What I know of New Orleans, all of this actually could happen down there.
Oh yeah, I think New Orleans. First of all, it's a story about the penitentiary system within Louisiana, the prison system, and it's judges who are getting a kickback to put people in prison from private prisons. Louisiana has the most private prisons of any state in the Union. They have per capita the most prisoners in Louisiana of any place in the world. They have more prisoners than Great Britain and France per capita. I mean, it's unbelievable.
Amazing.
So and there are many towns in Louisiana that are only there because there's a prison, a private prison, and so every business and every person in that town relies on that prison. So the judges are under pressure to put more people into those prisons and give them longer sentences. So really, the story is not so much fiction. I mean, I made up what happens, but the actual reason behind it is very real.
And as I'm reading that, New Orleans and the culture there, that almost becomes a character in the story, doesn't it?
Thank you. I get a lot of that. I'm getting a lot of reviews on that. We had one just last week that came in and said the New Orleans is one of the characters.
Yes.
I have never used. I did 5 islands. I did Jamaica Blue, Barbados Heat, South Beach Shakedown, St. Bart's Breakdown, Bahama Burnout. I never have used any location as a background. I think that's kind of cheating. I think that's just name dropping buildings or restaurants and saying, now I've been there, and if you've been there, what I'm talking about,
right.
And then go on with the story. I want to find a way to make the culture of the island in that case, and in New Orleans' case, I want the culture to be a character. I want it to play a part of it. I want you to feel like you're there, and it's surrounding you. And I hope I did that.
When I'm reading the reviews, a couple things keep popping up: breezy and colorful descriptions. Let's talk about breezy. The book moves along. I mean, you don't need to sit there with a sheet of paper and diagram what's happening to make sure you're not losing something. It's very easy to read. It's very entertaining. You can't wait literally to turn the page and for the story to continue. How difficult is it? What are the challenges to write a book like that where, okay, I don't want to get really caught down in details here. I want to keep the story moving and make it entertaining and fun to read for the reader.
I think I do what somebody the other day, I was talking to people, and the guy says, I just finished casting bones, and he said, it reads like a movie.
Exactly.
Exactly. And I think I visualize more than I just finished reading Michael Connelly's new book. I'm trying to think of the name of it. Anyway, I love Connelly, and he writes police procedurals, which this book, Casting Bones, is. But he does, to me, get bogged down in detail, and he get a lot of. He wants you to go down Mulhaven and go down here and take a left here and go. And I don't do that. And I'm trying to do a movie where you can picture everything that's happening vividly. It's not
right.
It's not bogging you down with the details of the work as much as I want you to be inside it. I want you to be a part of it.
And it moves quickly like a movie. And you're right. Sometimes you read that and it's like, wait a minute, I thought they were on West Street and now they're all the way back to where they started back on Market Street. So it is easy to follow. I mentioned that you've done the series before, that first Caribbean series with Mick Seaver, I believe.
Mick Seaver, yeah.
Mick Seaver,
the entertainment journalist, and and he follows the entertainment industry.
Now, you did 5 of those. Was it difficult? Did you know at the end of 5 that, okay, Mick, I'm sorry, but it's time to move on? And do you ever wonder what happened to Mick? Ever think about going back and bringing him back?
Well, it's fun. The publisher, Severin House, that's publishing Casting Bones, had asked if I would consider resurrecting Mick Seaver, and I would. I'm a writer. You want to pay me, I'll write. It's okay. But I'm not a purist. I'm not that much of a. I'm not that much into myself. I mean, but I did get to a point. I had done 5 islands. I thought maybe this is stretching it. I don't know if an entertainment journalist can keep going to the outer edges of these exotic places. And while it was fun, and I got to write off trips to all those islands, it was wonderful.
Nice.
I had come up with the idea about the 2 24-year-old guys. And I really thought that had some breeziness and lightness to it, because I had been on the road, as you said, as a comic, and I was with a partner of mine for almost 5 years on the road. And I felt that I could bring that 5 years into these 2 guys, because they quip with each other and they do all the things that Mike and I used to do. And I had a good time with that. That was fun. But then again, I got to thinking about the seriousness of Mick Seaver in the hard-edged Caribbean series. I wanted to bring that back. I wanted to be a little more serious. And that's when the whole Voodoo thing came up. And I don't know. I'm never sure there's a real road to how I get where I'm going, because I don't organize, I don't outline, I don't think it through. But as I'm writing, I'm being surprised, and just as surprised as any reader is. So.
Well, that's interesting, because you talk to some authors and they have this real rigid format. They know before they sit down, I'm going to get from here to there, and then they sort of fill in the middle as they're sitting down. What you're saying is you sort of let the story dictate where you're going to go?
Jeffrey Deaver, who writes the Lincoln Rhyme, the paraplegic guy, mysteries, and has had a movie made, a casting, The Bones was in the title. I'm trying to think what it was. Anyway, it's not important. Jeffrey Deaver outlines for 6 months, and then he writes for 2. And he writes everything in his outline. I write for 8 months, and I don't outline. Sue Grafton outlines more pages than are in her book. She wants to know what Kelsey is reading. She wants to know what she's watching on television. She wants to know what she had for lunch. And she doesn't use half of it, but that's her discipline. That's how she does it. I could never do that. Charlene Harris, who writes the True Blood series, I did a panel with her one time. I was the MC a couple of years ago in Cleveland, and a mystery panel at a conference, and she had one of the best lines ever. She said, "Don," she says, she's a very Southern girl. She says, when I open the door, I want to be surprised who's on the other side. So, it's like, don't make me outline. I want to be as surprised as my readers. So
that's interesting. Have you changed over the years in writing? Like, okay, I'm going to do this a little differently this time. In other words, if you went back and you did Caribbean Blue all over, Jamaica Blue all over again, would it be a whole lot different than that first one? No,
I don't think so. I read that back, and I still think that it got great. I mean, we had Lee Child blurb the book, and Sue Grafton, and I think it got really good reviews. And I don't think I'd do anything different. You'd like to think you grow as a writer, and I think I do in structure and character development, but I don't look back at any book I wrote and say, how could I have done that? I am proud of every book I've done.
That would probably drive you crazy if you did go back and pick up number 3 in the Stuff series and you're thinking, I really should have gone in a different direction. You just sort of close it, ship it off to the publisher, and go on to the next one. Don Bruns, our guest on the program, we're talking about his new book, A Quentin Archer Mystery, Casting Bones. The book is available all across the country. Information available at Don's website, which is donbrunsbooks.com. You can log on to our website, thisweekinamerica.us, and link on directly. This is the first in the series, and I understand Thrill Kill is the next one, and you've got, has that been published overseas?
No, it comes out in February in Great Britain, and then it will be in the United States in June.
That I knew. I saw the cover of that.
Now, let me turn the tape. Let me ask you a question.
Uh-oh.
I haven't talked to you or seen you in probably at least 15.
It's been probably a decade and a half, yes.
Now, have you changed your interviewing style? Because I used to watch you all the time and listen to you on the radio and see you in person sometimes. In fact, I think you and I were going to do something with Phil Donahue one time. But have you changed your style?
No, I don't think so. It's difficult for an old guy to try to do anything any differently. I think you tinker as you go along, maybe on substance, which is what you were talking about before. And I was thinking, a couple minutes left in the program, but we're going to reminisce here. The show we did, remember, in St. Mary's, Ohio, a number of years ago with Ricky Nelson, and I had you as the opening act for that. And we both commented, I've never seen any entertainer as shy as he was. You just about had to beg him to go out on stage and perform.
Yeah, he was very shy. And you and I did Ray Charles, too.
Yes, we did that and a couple of others along the way.
I warmed up Ray Charles. You booked me to do that, yeah.
The good old, I mentioned all that Don did. That's not just hyperbole. He's actually done all of that. And chances are, if you had, about 13,000 clients that did the voice messaging, if you called and put on hold, you'd hear Don say, just chill out. They're going to be with you just in a couple of minutes. I mean, your voice was all across the country when you were doing that.
Actually, yeah. Yeah, there's still a lot of places that I am that I'm not even aware of anymore. So yeah.
Give me a couple minutes because we have to wrap up. But let's talk about Quentin Archer. How much fun is that when you're starting? This is book number 1. So you're really laying it out there now. We don't have any preconceived ideas.
You got a blank canvas. You have a blank sheet of paper. You have to. I'm not even sure where he came from. He's a cop in Detroit. I just said, I'll have a cop and a voodoo queen. And then I thought, I got to give the cop background because he's got to be in his, early 40s. And so I thought, well, okay, what other corrupt city? Well, Detroit's got a cop department that sometimes gets, in a lot of trouble. So I say, okay, put him up there. But why is he going to New Orleans? Well, his dad was a cop. His 2 brothers are not cops, but they are bad news characters, and they get involved with a drug ring that is centered in the Detroit Police Department. Now I'm having fun. Now I've got some baggage. Now I've got some background. And Quentin Archer, Q, is a straight cop, and he doesn't know. He's got to tell the family and rat on his own brothers. He does. And he's Serpico, and the blue force up in Detroit pushes him out of the city. And they actually end up probably murdering his wife. And he gets a little scared, and he leaves and goes down to New Orleans, and that's how he comes about. So now I've already got a good background story, and he's still working with a couple friends in Detroit who are trying to find out if the wife was murdered. And it's just, so you've got two different stories going, and that's when the fun starts, because now I've got a balancing act. The main story is in New Orleans and the Voodoo Queen, and sometimes, in the new book, Thrill Kill, which comes out next year, characters that I don't want to take over the story, and I got to dial them back. And sometimes they get stronger, and they come back and say, you got. So in the case of the next book in that series, there's a stripper with a heart of gold in New Orleans who becomes a strong character. So it's fun. It's just I'm making stuff up
to that. Well, yeah, and I get the impression, just in hearing you talk and the enthusiasm and the passion and the fun that you're having in doing this, when the ideas come to you that rapidly, are you able to walk away from the computer, or however do you use a computer, or do you write it out?
Oh, no, I use a computer. I can't read my own handwriting.
You go back the next day, and I'm sure it was good last night, but I have no idea what I wrote before I went to bed last night. Are there nights when you can't sleep because that story is just like there and it's got to get out? You've got to get it written down.
No, it's not. But I do find myself I think you asked how I grow as a writer, and I think it's, if anything, developing better characters and background, and, as you mentioned, making the location a strong, strong part of the book, where if it wasn't for the city, the story wouldn't happen. A lot of writers that I know, and there's nothing wrong with it, but they want to tell the story and they want to build their characters. And I said, whatever the background is the location is there, but it's not important. And I think if you are going to pay that kind of money for a book of mine is Casting Bones, I want to give you a trip to New Orleans, and I want you to leave that book and say, wow, I have never been there, but I know a lot about that French Quarter, man. I feel like I drank there, I ate there, and so.
Well, yeah, and you couldn't do Casting Bones in Duluth. I mean, this really has to be in New Orleans to make this work.
Wait a minute. Is that a challenge?
Yeah, the next book a series is going to be based in Duluth, and then he stops in Des Moines on his way up there. That'll be like
Lima, Ohio.
A whole other series. Talking about the Quentin Archer Mystery by Don Bruns, Casting Bones. This is the first in the series. It's available all across the country. Check it out on Amazon. A lot of great reviews there as well. Don's website is donbrunsbooks.com. You can link on directly by going to our website, thisweekinamerica.us. His previous books, the Caribbean series, as well as the Stuff series, available as well. Information at Amazon and, of course, Don's website as well. Don, we'll have to do this again. This was really fun. Thank you so much for being with us on the program. Congratulations on all the success. It's been fun.
This was a fun
It's been fun. Don Bruns, our guest on the program. The book is called Casting Bones. Again, it's available all across the country. Information at our website, thisweekinamerica.us. We're back after these messages.